Ladies and gentlemen, this is your boy Joe from LSAT MVP, and this is the Bridging the Gap podcast powered by LSAT MVP. In today's episode, we're going to interview a T12 law graduate that spent her time in big law, mid law, and boutique law, and what she tells you may surprise you. Her name is Brittany, and she went to Vanderbilt Law School, and she's going to bridge the gap. Thank you all for joining. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and let's stay connected. Peace. Ladies and gentlemen, it is your boy Joe from LSAT MVP, and this is the Bridging the Gap podcast powered by LSAT MVP, and we have a special guest here today. Brittany, let's help bridge the gap. The floor is yours. Talk to us.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast. And I'm happy to talk about whatever you want to ask me.
100%. So, Brittany, she is a Vanderbilt Law graduate, a current fifth year employment lawyer. Um, she's been doing the work, she's been doing the knowledge. I want to ask you a question first, Brittany. What first drew you to law, and when did you realize it was something that you wanted to pursue seriously?
This is actually a funny story. So I was actually first drawn to law when I was like 7 years old. I was watching Law and Order with my mom, like going crazy, right? But I'm also the youngest of four. And so there's a huge age gap between me and my siblings. So there was always like this older kids versus me, and we would just annoy each other so bad. And so one day I just wrote them a contract. That was like the first day when I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I wrote them a contract, and it basically said, if you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. And I put two signature lines at the bottom and two date lines at the bottom, and I took it around to my brothers. And that's when everybody was like, oh, you're gonna be a lawyer, you're gonna be a lawyer. And I'm like, yep, I'm gonna be a lawyer. And so it kind of stayed like that. I shifted a few times throughout life. I thought I was gonna be a fashion designer, and then I thought I was gonna be a political scientist and I was gonna be a politician and go work on the Hill. And then I kind of cycled back into law when I got to college at Auburn. I took a con law class, fell in love with it all over again. And then I thought I was going to be a civil rights lawyer. And none of those things panned out, but I did become an employment lawyer over time. And so I kind of got, you get older, you go to college and you think you're going to change the world. And so that re-solidified me wanting to pursue law. And when I took that con law class, my professor, really saw something in me. He took me under his wing and took me to his office hours and kind of talked to me about really going into law school. And I thought that it was like a real thing that I could really pursue. And so maybe around my junior year, I started taking the LSAT, getting my personal statement together and everything. And I actually went on and did that application cycle and was admitted my senior year of undergrad and went straight through.
Wow. So, two things. First, anytime I talk to lawyers, like they hate contracts, you were doing that at 7 years old. That's huge. And number two, you talked about wanting to be a fashion designer first. So one of the things that drew me to your page, and of course we've been like mutuals for a while, is
Yeah.
that you show up unapologetically yourself. As we see, you have the logs, you're tatted up, like again, unapologetic. And I want to ask you, before law school, what did you think being a lawyer looked like, and how has that changed now that you're in the profession?
I mean, I know some people say a 360, but it's a complete 180. Like it's polar opposites of what I thought it was going to be like and what it's actually like. Before I went to law school, I didn't know any lawyers. I don't have any lawyers in my family. I have one, my dad has a friend who is a lawyer, but when I was seriously thinking about it, they weren't really close. And so I really had no guidance or anything. And so what I thought being a lawyer was what it looked like on TV. It was, prestigious, it was high powered, it was fast, that's what I thought it was going to be like. I thought all of the people were going to be really, really, really smart and that it was an extremely competitive world, but that I was going to wear the nice suits, drive the nice cars, stay in the nice hotels, and that's what everybody was going to do. When I started talking to lawyers, nobody would tell me what they did. They're like, I don't know what I do every day, and they would just say, oh, but it sucks. Don't be a lawyer. Don't be a lawyer. Don't be a lawyer. And so I was like, oh my goodness, these people are really smart. They have a lot of money. They don't want anybody else to do it. It must be like this great kept secret, right? Now that I'm 5 years in, and when I first started practicing, I was experiencing some serious imposter syndrome. You come in, the whole entire legal profession is only 5% Black, but when you're in law school, it seems like that number isn't as small as it really is because you get to see other people who look like you and you're in Balsa and you get to hang around and it's three different classes around you, but when you step into the legal profession, you might be the only person at your law firm. Like that 5% is spread out, and so it was a little bit of a culture shock in that sense of not being able to see anyone who looks like me. But on the flip side of that, I learned that I had so many more life experiences than most of the people that I work with who have been practicing for 10 years, 20 years, who them being a lawyer was their second career and things. And I started being championed for things that were just opportunities that I got based on my parents, right? Like I had traveled to different places in the world. I had been to Japan and I've been to Italy and things like that. And so when we interviewed people, the people I work for would always be like, "Oh, you like to travel? Brittany's been to Japan." So, there'll be things like that. My family goes on an annual vacation that my dad takes us on. And even though me and all of my siblings are adults and two of my siblings have children, my dad takes us and we get to all feel like kids again. And so, that's different for a lot of people. And so I started kind of having issues with um, I have a little more privilege than people were expecting that I would have. And so, and they don't have as much privilege as I was expecting them to have, and so I just kind of came to understand that those ideas that had been pushed on me that, oh, you have to work twice as hard or to have half as much and you'll never make as much money, as a white lawyer because you're a black woman. I kind of realized that some of those things just weren't true, especially when you're first starting out. Like when you first start out, pretty much everybody gets paid the same salary, and there is a little bit of a difference because most firms aren't lockstep, but you have the opportunity to close the gap a little bit more in the beginning.
Nice. And for some of our viewers that may not know, what does lockstep mean?
So lockstep is a form of compensation. Law firms, there are different forms of compensation. Most people, when you're going into law school, they'll talk to you about market scale, which is also known as the Cravath scale. And that is the number typically that large law firms are paying their incoming first year associates. That is typically a big law number. There are law firms that pay that number. They just don't market it as being big law or anything like that. But what lockstep is when everyone in the class, the first year associate, they get a raise at the same level. So if you start out at $200,000, everybody who was a first year associate with you and they go into their second associate year, they will all receive a $10,000 raise. You will all make $210,000. Then you'll all make $220,000, et cetera, instead of it being a merit-based raise.
I love that, and I'm laughing because I love seeing us being able to show up in this type of
Yes.
privilege. Because I think a lot of people like I love that. By the way, shameless plug. Number 12 law school in the country. You wouldn't have, you wouldn't have. I told you I was going to say you wouldn't have
Yeah.
Vanderbilt Law School. They are number 12 in the country. Let's talk about your journey to Vanderbilt. Was that your first choice? What other schools were you weighing? Let's talk about how that afforded these opportunities for you.
Of course. So Vanderbilt was not my first choice. Vanderbilt actually was not on my list. I did not apply in my original application cycle. My top choice was UT Austin. I wanted to go there. I wanted to move to Texas. I'm originally from Alabama, and I just wanted to get out of the state. I wanted to move to big Texas where everything is bigger in Texas, you know what I mean? And so I was looking at the school. It was a good school at the time that I was applying. It was actually tied with Vanderbilt in rankings. But it was his first time breaking the T14, so that was not typical for UT Austin at the time. The school is larger than Vanderbilt, and I was weighing some other schools, and now I honestly can't even think of the schools because none of them really compared to UT Austin and Vanderbilt once I kind of came down to it. I applied to Vanderbilt because my dad forced me to.
Shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out to my dad. He knows way better than me. So I did not want to go, and actually, I will give a preview that I don't typically tell people. The reason why I did not want to go to Vanderbilt is because their application required you to disclose criminal arrest and convictions, even if they were expunged or happened while you were a juvenile. Most law schools do not require that. And when I was 12 years old, I was arrested for disorderly conduct because I was in a park brawl with my friends, and we just so happened to be fighting on private property. And so they came and picked us up from school. It was a whole thing, right? And I did not want to disclose that on my application because you have to submit your full law school application to the character and fitness portion of the bar. And the bar does not reach for juvenile convictions. So I just didn't want to tell. I didn't want to. And my dad basically just said, it's not that deep. Like it's just really not that deep. And so he paid for all of my application fees for me to apply to Vanderbilt. I applied to Vanderbilt. He was correct. It was not that deep. And although I do have to disclose it on everything, and I wish I did not have to, but I do. So I had to disclose it on my first law firm application. I had to disclose it on every one of my admissions to federal courts. And I did have to disclose it on my character and fitness portion of the bar application, but it has not hindered anything. I still received a six-figure scholarship from Vanderbilt. I have still, I worked in big law, I've worked in boutique law, and I've worked in mid-size law as well. And I have also been admitted to all of the federal courts in the state of Texas. So,
Nice. And thank you so much for divulging that truth, right? Because it's so important for a lot of our listeners. Again, fifth year attorney,
yeah.
big law, mid law boutique, literally got every outcome she wanted. And shout out to her dad for having that foresight. I think sometimes we overthink, but having someone who can help you through it, even if they're not, and I don't know if you're, no, you're first gen, right?
Yes, I am
You're a
first
first
gen.
gen lawyer. So even if someone may not be an attorney, they may be able to help out. So having like that nice circle of people that have reason can help. And that's huge. So let's talk about your experiences in boutique law, mid law, and big law. Obviously, I think at least some of some of the people that are in this journey, they want to do like big law, like that's what people look at because the numbers, the Krivov scale, they want to come
Mhm.
in and make that, life changing money. You can make good money in mid-sized law and in boutique law. Let's talk about those experiences.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I actually made more money in boutique law and mid-sized law than I did in big law.
Talk about it. Talk
Yes.
about it.
So I'll just be honest. I'll give you guys the numbers. When
Hmm.
I first came out of law school, I believe my starting salary was $195,000
Wow.
in big law.
Wow.
When I left there, I went to a boutique firm because I wanted to do solely employment law. I went from doing a split of employment law slash litigation. And I will say, although I ran away from that, it is a great split to do because you don't get a lot of litigation experience in employment law. Most of those things just don't go to trial. So getting that litigation piece, even if it's a practice area that you don't love, getting that litigation experience is huge and it really will set you apart and it'll kind of propel and accelerate your career. So I started out, I think at, yeah, 195. I got a $10,000 raise after my first year to 205. I believe laterals actually made more money than that. I had a friend who lateral to the same firm I worked at and she came in. We were the same year. She made 210. I made 205. Um, I left there. I went to a boutique law firm and my salary increased by $10,000 without me having to go a full year. So I made 220 there. And then I left there and I went to a mid-sized law firm and I made starting out 230 with
Nice.
a $10,000 raise. Pretty much it'll be a $10,000 raise each year plus whatever you get for a bonus.
Nice. That's huge because that dispels, and I think a lot of like prospective law students, they're just so rigid. They're like, oh, big law,
Yeah.
big law, big law. But again, this is someone who's been doing it for some time, divulging and letting you guys know actual real numbers. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yes, for sure.
So what's the differential in the hours that you're working from big law to mid-size to boutique?
Here's the main difference. For big law, typically you have an investment hours piece. So my billable hours requirement was the same, 1,900 hours. However, no, it was 2,000. And big law, it was 2,000 hours. But there was an additional 400 hours, which are called investment hours, that you have to invest in yourself or the firm or in building a book of business in addition to your 1,900, or I'm sorry, in addition to your 2,000 billable hours, right? So in doing that, you end up really committing 2,300 to 2,400 hours a year to the farm. So you're trying to build 1,900, 2,000 hours, right? While also going to conferences, going to lunch and learns, going to networking events and happy hours and things like that, all investing in like your growth and development in the firm and in your networking ability to grow business later on. When I went to and a part of that as well, I just want to give caveat is like summer associates. So this is like what you guys are, but on the other side of it. So when summer associates come, you get a lot of investment hours as an attorney from that, but it is a whirlwind because you're still trying to build hours. So while it's like a lot of fun, and so we're going to lunch every day, we're going to happy hours, we're scheduling all these events for law students, and so you get the investment hours that way, but you still kind of need to go home and build some work. Like you still have to draft the contracts, review the documents, do the research and all that stuff in the between time. So you can kind of see that those investment hours are stacking on top of your billable hours. In boutique law, there is no summer associate program usually. And so you don't have investment hours to give. Like you're not required to go to conferences. Typically, you're not required to, invest hours in that way. You may do some lunch and learns and some internal development that way, but it's typically not as structured. And there are some downsides to that, especially when you're a younger attorney. You need a lot more hand holding. It is called a practice of law for a reason, and you want consistent practice doing things. So it is good, I do think, sometimes to start at a bigger law firm where you have secretaries and you have paralegals and you have a library that can kind of cut out some of that administrative stuff that you can't bill for anyway, so you can learn how to practice law. And
Nice.
then in mid law, typically, mid-sized law, there's typically not an investment hours requirement, but you still have all of the things that are going on, that would be going on in big law, like the lunch and learns, the conferences, the summer associates, and all of that stuff. But the billable hours requirement is typically 1,900 to 2,000 across the board.
Nice. That's huge. So you mentioned earlier that initially you wanted to be a civil rights attorney.
I
So
did.
what led you to and I think a lot of us sometimes, right? What led you to the path towards employment law?
So honestly, two things. When I got to law school, it's easy to want to be noble when you're submitting your application. And I think everybody should be noble in their application, honestly. Like that personal statement should be like, I want to change the world, okay? But when you get into law school, things start getting real. And the realities of taking on six figures in law school debt, the realities of having to give away 10 years for the potential of, public student loan forgiveness, it starts crashing down. And then the lure of, I think Cravath scale now, like when I came out, like $195,000 is like nothing now, right? But when I came out of law school, that was top.
Yeah,
Like that is what, people were making. So we're still kind of close to them when you actually look at the numbers. It's actually not so far away, right? But you come out of law school and you start thinking the prospects of being a first year associate. I have no experience. And for me, especially, I never worked a corporate job. Like I worked at a restaurant. I was a server at a restaurant. And I worked at Barnes and Noble when I was in law school to get a discount on my books, right?
smart.
And so the first time I was gonna make six figures, was gonna be coming out of law school with no experience and having never worked in corporate America. And they said, I will give you $200,000 a year to know nothing. And that's just enticing. I'm gonna be real. It's
Yeah,
enticing for
yeah,
somebody to say that to you. And 10 years is a long time, especially when you're young and it's kind of hard to fathom like working for pennies for 10 years unless you like have a true passion for it. So I did think that I was gonna be a civil rights lawyer. People started throwing money at me. I was like, no,
no,
don't
no,
do it.
no,
I
no.
want to be a civil rights attorney. No.
Oh no, this is huge because I think oftentimes, which I think for a lot of people from marginalized communities, like you can only help others if you can help yourself, and that's the
Yes.
fact of the matter. Like, of course, we have people like Benjamin Crump, he's doing well. We have Johnny Cochran,
Yes.
like these individuals that do well, and these are like oftentimes like the lawyers that we see, and like yeah, it's cool, like again, it's
For
cool,
sure.
but we also don't talk about like how long it took them to get to that point, to have that one case, right? To have that Trayvon Martin of a case, to have those things that puts
Yes.
them on a national stage where they could make that from book deals or just again just the sheer volume. And I think again you can help others when you can help yourself, right? um,
Absolutely.
and that's the fact that matters. So that's something also for all the prospective law students or current law students that will watch this, is that you have to really think about your goals and how you can help yourself, because it's a saying where they say you
Mhm.
can pour from an empty cup, right?
Yes, you
And
cannot.
imagine trying to practice and advocate, but you're doing it and you're struggling. Now you could still advocate, but again, you have like a firm cushion, right? And you're doing
For
employment
sure.
law.
And I'll say this too. Here's something that I tell a lot of my mentees because most of us are from marginalized communities, right? The first line of people that we need to help in our circle of influence is typically our family. And you'll have this thing where you're kind of dealing with survival's guilt because you've made it out, you're making money, but you're typically already like you're upside down in some debt. Typically, if it's not student loans, it's some kind of credit card debt when you're coming out of law school and your lifestyle has changed, typically, even if you didn't spend all your money, like you didn't do the high rise, buy a new car, like going from a student apartment to an apartment in another city, like I moved from Nashville where I wasn't paying for my housing to moving to Houston downtown, and so and I didn't get the most expensive apartment or anything like that, but it still costs money. Like, your expenses do raise exponentially. And I also went from being poor to like upper middle class overnight. So
Yeah,
things change, right? And so you want to help people, you want to give things out, and you end up in a deficit. So something that I advise most of my mentees to do is to set up a separate account where they will put a designated money amount of money in it every month or every quarter or whatever. And once that money is gone, you are out of help money. You cannot send money to help anyone else until that money is replenished and you can do things because you have to set yourself up and take care of yourself so that you can help people in the long term. It's not, we only got a year to do this and man, I hate practicing law. I don't want to do this anymore, but I've given out all of my money to help everybody else. I don't have anything saved up.
100%. That's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah, that's smart. So we talked a little bit about just how you could show up as yourself. We spoke a little bit on the phone. Your lock journey. It's been 5 years since you've been practicing.
Yes.
Talk to us and sort of tell us sort of how has that showed up, and and you told me on the phone that you also ended up inspiring others. Let's talk about that as well.
Yes.
Hmm.
So I caught a lot of flack for locking my hair. When I was in law school, I had a fro, and when it was time for me to study for the bar,
That was a real civil rights attorney with the fro
yeah,
first
yeah,
year.
for sure, yeah, yeah. I was going, yeah, Black Power out here with the
Yeah,
fro,
you ready,
but
man?
no, but it was just honest. It was too time consuming. And I was like, man, I just don't have time to do this while I'm studying for the bar. I don't want to cut my hair. And I had kind of been thinking about locking my hair for a little while. And so I just kind of went on, I just did it. I bit the bullet for real. And I caught so much flack for it, man. I'm like, yo, people were like, what did you do to your hair? Why
Oh
would
my
you do that
god.
to your hair? You're about to start practicing law. You're gonna show up to the law firm like that. Oh my God. Like, I mean, and I will say I did leave the shop like, girl, what did you do? But over time, and I did when I first started, I think like the first day I showed up to work, I wore a wig. And I did some things to my hair, but then I was like, I don't want to do this no more. So I wore my starter locks. I have so many pictures of like my first year when I was just like in my starter locks, going to the firm and I had my short hair. And I loved my hair. I thought it was so cute. It framed my face so well. I think I was the only person who loved my hair though. People made comments. They made a lot of comments. Black people, white people, Hispanic people. I mean, people, parents came to work and made comments about my hair, y'all.
Crazy.
Like, it was bad. Yes. I sat in on an interview one time. We were interviewing someone who wanted to be a summer associate at the firm, and my junior mentor, like literally the person who was assigned to me, straight up said in that interview, talking about me, said, yeah, it's just good to have, a junior mentor because they can tell you, what's right at the firm, what's not right at the firm, like how you should and shouldn't wear your hair. To a guy, though, we were interviewing a guy. I had a person tell me, I liked your hair much better when it was in a fro. You should go back to that. Like,
Unsolicited, unsolicited, man.
unsolicited,
Crazy.
like bold people, they had a lot of things to say, right? But as my hair matured and my hair got longer and things like that, then everybody's like, oh, your hair's so beautiful. Oh, I love your hair. Oh, it just looks so pretty on you. I wish my hair could do that.
Of
Things kind of
course.
shift. But I'm glad that I didn't. I'm really glad that I didn't do that. And the reason I didn't conform is because when I was in law school, the major topic towards Black students was always that there will have to be two of you. You'll have to be one version of yourself at work, and then you'll get to be, your true self or another version of yourself at home. And it may just be something wrong with me, but I just didn't like that because I'm like, how often do you think I'm gonna be at home? I'm gonna be at work way more. than I'll ever be at home, right? You know, you spend way more time with your work family than you do with your home family anyway. So why do I have to be a fake version of myself here? Like, should I be a professional version of myself? Yes. But why do I have to be a fake version of myself? I don't want to do that. And so I'm so glad that I had that thought because over time, when I say, oh, I used to dress up for work, and the managing partner of the office actually told me, oh, you don't have to dress up. Like, we're pretty casual here. And I kept dressing up anyway because I like to feel good. You look good, you do good, you feel good, right? And other people started dressing up too. Then it was, oh, I want to wear my statement shirts to work. You know, when I decorated my office, they clowned me. They're like, is this a fashion show? Like, but then everybody's in my office standing in the mirror. When I left the firm, they asked for the mirror, you know, like, so I wore my lashes. I used to get my lashes done, and I stopped getting them done literally because everybody else started getting their lashes done. Because they were like, "Oh, your lashes are just so cute. I want my lashes to look like that." Now, my whole corner of the office, everybody got their lashes done, wearing their statement shirts with their offices decorated. You know, so being yourself is contagious. It really is. And when you do good work and you're yourself, man, nothing can stop you. Like people will do crazy things. They'll really try to dim your light, but nothing can stop you.
That's yeah, that's tough. And I think the hardest part about that is that you probably like, and again, for everybody listening, it wasn't like it was like one day everybody's making comments, the next day, oh, we love you. It was like probably, I'm
Yeah,
sure,
it was
like
over
months, like it was
time.
over
Like
time. And
it
I
was
think that's
definitely over
why
time.
it's so important that you did stand 10 toes down in who you are. Because one, you never want to be at war with yourself, but peace with the world. Because again, like how you
Yes,
say, you're going to be at home for what, 4 hours, and at work for the
maybe.
rest. Like you, literally, that's like an unregulated nervous system you'll have. But that's so huge,
Yes.
and that story I think has been true for me as well. Like I'm 6'8" as a big black man. Like it's like even just like it's like yeah, like that's going to be the story of a lot of
Yes.
our future law students' lives. If you're an individual in a microcosm that has like a group thing, and sometimes that's how it is, right? Um, as we know, going to these law schools, it's inherently a conservative space, right? It's a
Yes.
professional, prestigious environment, and there is, essentially like a standard that has been there. Whether or not it includes everyone, it's what people think a lawyer looks like, acts like, talks like, and it takes time for people like Brittany to come in and take up space for them because they may look at it and be like, oh wow, like she's like look, again, you're going to be a direct mirror to a lot of people, right? It's a lot of people that have been faking or living lies, and they
Yes.
see you coming up. And again, by the way, let's just mention him. Number 12 law school in the country, boutique law, mid law, big law, 200 plus salary, showing up as herself. I mean, if there's no other reference point that you guys need, it's right here. Like,
No, for sure. And I mean, I've even gotten that compliment. Like, it's not a self-serving anecdote, right? Like, I've gotten that compliment in my performance reviews that not only do you do good work, but you show up here as yourself, and we want you to keep doing that. We love that you do that, you know? And so it really does bring out the best in people. It'll bring out the best in your secretary, your paralegals, and even like the mean partners, which there are mean partners. Like they're just partners that they'll yell at you, they'll scream at you. They're very particular. Typically, unfortunately, those are also the really good lawyers who know their stuff. Like, you know, so um, but even then, like when you're yourself and you're like, I don't really care about that. That stuff doesn't really bother you because you're secure in who you are. Like even the yellers and the screamers, like they have to leave that stuff alone.
100%. That's huge.
Yeah.
So I want to bring it back over to employment law, and I want to ask you, when people feel like someone
Mhm.
is off at work, what are some general considerations to take into account? What should they do? Let's talk about it.
Let me tell you this. Your only consideration should be report it to HR. Report. If you are having an issue at work, report it to HR. If you have the ability to record the issue that you are having at work, record it and then report it to HR and tell them you have a recording, but do not send the recording.
Wow,
That's
that's
what you should
huge,
do.
right?
And document everything, everything that is going on, document it all. The
And
thing about employment law, I think I'm going to give this advice, and a lot of defense side employment lawyers may not like this, but I'm going to say this because it'll make practicing law more fun for everybody, both sides, plaintiff sides and defendant sides, especially for employment law. When you don't complain at work, it makes it easy for us to win. Really easy. We don't have to win on the facts, we get to win on a technicality. And as fun as it is to win, nobody wants to win on a technicality. We want to win because we fought you hard, because we wrote a great brief and the judge agreed with us. I don't even care if the law was on my side. I wrote a great brief and a bad judge agreed with me. I want to win because the facts in the world are crazy, not me on the technicality. You know what I mean? And so when you are feeling the type of way at work and you just leave your job and you don't say anything, how are we going to fix a problem we don't know about?
100%.
We can't, which also means we can't be liable for a problem we didn't know about.
That's huge. Oh my gosh. And I think sometimes for a lot of people, I think some people get scared also.
Yeah, it's
Scared to report.
scary.
It's
It's
scary.
scary and it's tough. The emotions are high. Like you're not talking about, some frilly things. We're talking about discrimination. We're talking about harassment, and not just racial harassment. We're talking about sexual harassment. You know what I mean? And there are things, I mean, I have seen cases that are kind of triggering. Sexually, based on discrimination, like they people say and do really odd things at work, and corporations are just people. So they make mistakes. They're made up of people who don't know how to handle tough situations in their personal lives, so they definitely don't know how to handle them at work. And typically we get called in way too late. They don't call us when the problem is happening. They call us after they have handled the problem incorrectly. So you have to speak up. And I mean, that's true in real life as well, not just at work. You have to speak up. If something is going on and you don't tell somebody what's going on, they cannot fix the problem. No one can read minds.
Wow, that's huge. Very profound. So also touching back on that, you are a black woman and you talked about
Yes.
instances where, and unfortunately oftentimes those individuals that do endure sexual harassment, right, oftentimes are women just based off the numbers of men in positions of
Yes.
power, especially in corporate. Let's talk about representation. So why does representation in the legal field matter?
So it matters for a lot of reasons, right? And the first reason is not actually based on race or ethnicity. It matters because there are not enough lawyers for the amount of people who live in this country, period. It is so hard to access legal justice because it costs so much money, right? When I was a first year associate and I worked in big law, I did not know anything. Like I told y'all, I'd never worked in corporate America. I went straight through from undergrad to law school, right? They were charging $400 an hour for my work, right? I ain't get paid $400 an hour, but they charge $400 an hour for first year associate work, right? And now, so that's that, and that's on the low end. Like I worked at a firm that marketed themselves as a regional firm, and so they purposely discounted their prices to be more marketable. Instead of charging 600 and $700 an hour, they charge, or $500 an hour for like associate work, right? They charge 350, 390, 400, 420, right? So they're more marketable to a larger audience of people to do legal services. But still think about it, like we're a defense side law firm, so we're pretty much working for corporations that are paying this money, right? Now, on the flip side of this, you're talking about people who have access to legal aid services. Typically, you have to be below the poverty line or pretty close to it. There's a wide range of people between people who can get free legal services and people who can pay $400 an hour who have no access to legal justice, but those are most of the people who are being affected by legal issues, right? So that's number one. Number two, why you need you need representation in the legal profession that is based on, I believe, gender and race and ethnicity is because we're all facing different things. And sometimes when you walk into a room, I work for this woman. I love her. One of the best lawyers I've ever worked with, one of the first lawyers I ever worked with. And she basically just told me two things that I really needed to hear as a first year associate. The first thing is that there will always be a typo. I'm just gonna go ahead and tell y'all right now. You ain't gonna have nothing that you do by yourself that ain't gonna have no typo in it. Oh, for real. So every time you get something back, maybe like there was a typo in this. Tell them it was a typo when you did it too. I just ain't say nothing to you. I'm just playing. Don't say that. Don't say that to anybody. All right, but no, seriously. And the other thing though is that there is no such thing as an irrelevant fact. So when you have people in the room who think so large, they think so big, it's always big picture, we always trying to get here, right? Sometimes they miss things that really, really, really matter because it seems irrelevant to your case, but it may be relevant to why they're asking for what they're asking for. It may be the one thing, if you ask the question about it, that tears their whole case apart, right? So unfortunately, that means you have to always look at everything. Like you have to look at every single word, every his, every hers, every and or there, right? But on the flip side of it, it means that you should look at things holistically, and a lot of lawyers don't do that. So when you have people who come from similar backgrounds as you and somebody misunderstands something and you're like, no, 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 that's not what that meant. Or you have a corporation that employs, a person, they call them sophisticated, clients. Corporations are typically sophisticated clients. I don't like to use those words. I don't think I honestly don't think that any clients are more sophisticated than the other. I think that some clients just have more experience with litigation or the legal field than others do, so they know what you need more than others do. But the issue is that you'll have people who look like us working for big corporations who are having a problem, but you need to get in contact with the person who looks like us and they don't want to answer the phone for a white lawyer or they don't want to talk to a white lawyer. They don't feel comfortable, speaking to that person about what was going on, right? You may have, I've had times where the lawyer opposite us was, a black woman or a black man, and the partner I work for is a white man or a white woman, and they're like, oh, this person keeps yelling and screaming at me. We can't get anything done on the phone. Will you give them a call? Of course I'll give them a call. I give them a call. Nicest person I ever talked to. Like, we don't have an issue. We can like close this deal or whatever. Like I had a case one time where literally I was the only person who could settle it. And I was a young associate. I was maybe a second year associate at the time. So, having people that look like you can disarm things sometimes. And then on the other side of it, right? People use us strategically. I have been hired before because I was a black woman and it got them business. Um, People will take you to be like the first chair associate on a case or first chair on a case, right? Because you're more palatable to the jury. And so it's more likely that you'll win the case than a white person coming to a small, city will. And sometimes, so all of these things are considered and all of these things matter. And I know like people don't want to talk about those things because you really can't talk about race as much or you can't talk about gender as much, but those things are factors. And people also hire their lawyers based on that. Like, I want a team of people that has a black woman on it. So I won't hire your firm because you don't have a black woman on your team. I want a team of people that's diverse. So I won't hire your firm because you only have one black person on your team. Like clients care.
That's huge. Yeah, being
And
diverse in makeup and ideology, that's something that I think is
absolutely.
huge. I want to ask you a question, Brittany.
Okay.
Um, it's gonna be my last one. I'm not taking up all your Saturday. We gotta do a part two. It's been great. Um,
Yes, we do. We really do.
and also I want to thank you first and foremost because you are dropping gems. You're helping a lot. You are bridging the gap for us. I want to ask you, as an employment lawyer, that's a black woman that went straight through, right? We have a lot of students right now and a lot of prospective law students. They're
Mhm.
sort of on the fence about law school.
I
Um,
understand.
the political climate, federal loans, it's so much happening right now. Do you believe
Yes,
that this journey is worth seeing through for someone on the fence?
absolutely. I'll say this. I don't know what your career is going to look like. I don't know if you're going to love it. And I don't know if you're going to make a 20-year career out of becoming a lawyer. But I am a much smarter, much wittier, much more thoughtful, and better person individually. Like, not even for what I contribute to the world, but solely like individually because I went to law school. When I went, I was scared. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I knew I was like, man, I'm a kind of person who feels like I would want a different career every 5 years, and I still went to law school, right? And it taught me so much about myself. It taught me about people. It taught me about the world, and it also taught me how to think critically in a way that I had never thought before. And it challenged me in a way that I had never been challenged before. I think that even if you never practice law a single day, that you can benefit from going to law school, and that if you do go to law school, that it will springboard you into whatever life you are supposed to have.
Wow, that's huge. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to give a huge round of applause for Brittany here again. Vanderbilt Law graduate, fifth
Oh
year
my
appointment
goodness.
lawyer from the number 12 law school in the country. Brittany, I appreciate you for coming out and talking to everyone. Definitely going to have to running back. And I wish you well in your career. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, for inviting me on the Bridging the Gap podcast. I have enjoyed my time here. I would love, love, love to do this again. And I know that you're going to do great in your career.
Thank you.
I hope to see you on the lawyer side.
I
Yes.
will.
All right,
Also,
I'm gonna be on you.
no, I will. I will. Brittany, where can they find you if they want to stay connected? I know they fell in love with your story and you. Talk to us.
Oh, I hope so. Listen, you can find me at Balancing with BB on TikTok. It is BALANCINGWITHBB. It is also the same on YouTube. That's pretty much where I post all of my lawyer gems and content and daily stuff. So if you have any questions, you want to know anything at all, please, please, please hit me up. And I do have a couple things coming up if I can plug those.
100%. Go ahead. Yeah, we
Thank
here.
you.
Yeah, that's all we here.
Um, for everybody, I know a lot of people are on the fence about going to law school. I will be doing a quick little webinar, just kind of giving people like, how to choose a law school, what you should be looking for, and just some like quick ins and outs so it won't be such a black box. And for everybody who is starting law school in the fall, I will be doing a 1L program for all of my mentees and anyone who would love to join.
Let's get it. Brittany, I'm gonna
Yes.
clip that up and post it all over my TikTok because
Oh my gosh.
we have a lot of eager students. So they coming, man. I appreciate you so much, Brittany. Let's get it. Thanks for bridging the
Thank
gap. Talk to you
you.
soon. Peace.
Bye.